What do you get out of doing the podcast? You two. Well,
what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, what do you think you get out of it? Like, what are the positives out of the podcast? Minus the money.
I mean,
the huge bags.
Yeah, massive. Thanks for the help carrying them out earlier.
Yeah.
It's a great question, dude. I like being creative.
So you're saying I'm a good host?
Yeah, really good.
Put that on record.
Really fucking good. I like creativity.
I stole your show.
I love podcasts as an art form anyway. Like, I actually love it. I love watching them. I love seeing the movement, where it's going, how it's changing, different elements, different segments. Like, I watch so many podcasts and listen, like insane amounts. But I'm an actual fan of it as a creator. I hate that term, creator. I hate it.
No, but
like,
it's fair.
Rarely do I watch or listen to any industry stuff, like mountain bike stuff. Like, I just don't. Like, I'm way outside of the box with like comedy and more entertainment and bit of sport stuff, like NFL stuff. But yeah, I just love, and all, like, I'm also quite interested in business. So I love that you can turn what is a hobby, into a business, and just all of it, man. It's really hard to explain, but just the whole movement of it's really interesting. And how, I mean, it's, if you think, it's quite unique to be part of a growing media outlet. Like, this is almost going back to when radio first kicked off, and people would be like, what? Like, people are going to listen to this thing at home? Like, that's insane. And then look what radio became. And I feel like podcasting is that. Like, it's an early stage of something as big as radio and TV. I mean, it is. Like, podcasts are huge now. So it's been cool, and I think it's been quite addictive being part of that growth. Being literally one of the first
mountain bike.
Yeah, or first podcasting, really, in the grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? Like, how, like, loads start and don't go anywhere.
True.
So, yeah, I've been at the early stage of that and just watching it all grow and just seeing how, okay, like, the visual side of it now is way more important than it used to be. And then, okay, now, like, clips have become a thing on YouTube. Okay, cool. And then, like, okay, how do you then integrate brands? And also quite addictive, because it's like, okay, brands are now looking at this, whereas years ago they were like, oh, what, like, fucking kooky little nerd thing doing podcast talking. Whereas now it's like, there's no really, like, it's such a direct relationship with our listeners. Like, how can it not be interesting to brands, and just such a powerful thing to have built, if that makes sense?
So you like the challenge of it?
I just
like
love the
figuring things out, and the growth, and like, what are we going to do next? And okay, this.
Yeah, like, what are other creators doing? And not copying them, or sometimes had like ideas that it looks like other people have copied.
There's minimal new ideas in the world these days.
Yeah, totally.
To be fair.
Yeah, but that's kind of obviously
it is just repurposing old ideas, I think.
To have something which is a hobby and it's now a job is just the dream. Like, and I've always kind of prided. Is that a word?
Yeah, prided myself.
Can be myself on like having jobs like that and running businesses like that. It doesn't feel like a job. So the more you can hang out with my friends and like do this, the better, really, you know?
Yeah, and you've got to remember, you don't see it, but you're adding a lot of value. Entertainment, people are learning things, you're educating them. Then it's tough because you just think, okay, I'm hanging out with my mates, having conversations.
It's enriching, isn't it, for a sport to have
and
a
for
podcast.
yourself, yeah.
You know,
What do you get out of it?
Like me?
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I don't sit and have a conversation. It's rare you have a conversation that's that intense. Like, I don't go to pubs. If I do, it's with multiple people. There's distractions, noises going on. I'm quite easily distracted. I'm quite scatty. You've got loads. Like, to actually sit and do a podcast, I have conversations with people. I feel like I know them better. One thing I'd liken it to was when I was younger, I never drank. And then I was like, from the outside, I was like, I can see it has value. Do you know what I mean? I can see that having a drink with someone from a bike brand or from some form of business, I can see it has value. It brings people together. Why? There's something in it. And like, kind of the same goes with podcasting. You like, it's by no means the same as having a drink with someone, but it's like you have a conversation, you get to a next level of knowing someone. That's not even just down to the data, like my favourite colour is green, I really enjoy this. It's like what that person, how they answer the question. Like, you feel like you've done something with someone. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
Makes sense. No, it does. You can learn so much from them. There's a lot to having deeper connections like that. That's universally makes you a happier person, having deeper connections and
definitely,
and
dude,
all those things.
Like, we had a weird experience for me, I had a weird experience through lockdown with you having the series, because it was like I really knew this dude. Yeah, I'd met you probably a handful of times.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, in person. Yeah.
In person, a handful of times. Maybe we'd met 5 times at like bike shows or at like
not
events
even,
or whatever.
like,
Probably not even. Yeah. No. But
like twice, really. There at your house. That was like the first time I met you, and then we met at Fort William really briefly. I was like, hey, yeah, like, and you were like, said a quick hello.
Yeah.
And then,
so how weird that is to then. So I think there was probably, for people listening to it then, they know better than I, because I can't even remember what we're talking about, but we were like meeting each other as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like learning about like,
because you didn't know.
It's a dance. Like so you're getting to know each other.
Did not know.
Yeah, it's like dating.
And then like humour, like the thing about probably getting to know someone, probably the same for you, probably the same for you, is like humour is like the best way. So then you just end up making each other laugh. And
well, hoping that, because then you can relate. Because if they don't laugh at some of your humour, you're like, well, I don't think we're going to be mates.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Do you guys believe in serendipity?
Please tell me. What
like things happen for a reason, or like trust in the universe, like you guys coming together.
I go back, right, okay. Quick anecdote. I always think of this. So like a podcast that I was listening to totally changed my life. So I was listening to something on the way down as well, and this guy was talking about these like fractional movements in life and the way it can just change everything, totally change everything. Like we could say something here now, this moment, and someone goes, oh, I'm going to go and do that, and their life
butterfly effect.
So pizza. Different.
Is that the butterfly effect?
Get pizza.
Get pizza. Maybe I think so, but it's like that little fraction, and they used it as like, he used the example of it was like 2 sticks with a little bend in it, and if you touch it that way, it exponentially, and it goes off into a different dimension, right? So I remember 2 things have happened with podcasts that have like been really like powerful. First one, driving on my own in Poland, hated my job, hated my life, hated the company I did. And this episode, it was a Rogan one with Duncan Trussell, and he was just literally talking about like following your dream, following your passion. And at that moment, I was like, right, I ain't doing this anymore. And fast forward, I got out of the company, absolute shit show, started a distribution company, started a podcast. It was like that one thing.
Wow.
And then another powerful thing happened, right? So I was doing the podcast, and it was like, I don't know how many episodes in, let's just say 30, right? And I had a guy on called Josh Perry, former pro BMXer turned nutritionist, and he was basically like a real advocate for the ketogenic diet. And I just found him on LinkedIn. I found him a super interesting guy. He'd had a brain tumor, which he'd like had surgery. Anyway, unwound it all. Had him on as a guest. Didn't really think much of it. Really interesting conversation, I think. Anyway, fast forward a couple of months. I'm at this bike show in Sheffield, Petey's Bike Bonanza. And this guy comes over, and he's emotional, like he's crying, to shake my hand. Make me a bit emotional now. And he's like, I just want to come and say thank you. And he's like, you've changed my entire life. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, just selling mud guards and shit. And he's like, no, you're like, your episode with Josh Perry helped me overcome this disease I think he had, or totally changed his life. He was like, I was overweight. Look at me now, I'm like riding my bike. And I think, honestly, like, those little things throughout doing this are such a motivator, because you're like, holy shit, like 2 dudes just talking rubbish with a guest or whatever. It's like actually impacts people, like actually changes people's lives sometimes.
That's amazing. Dude, that got me, I'm like got goosebumps.
Yeah, it's, really it's like special. A massive thing. It's like, and at that point, you know, you're 30 episodes in or whatever it was, you've been there, you feel like,
oh yeah,
no
like,
one gives a fuck.
Yeah, no one's listening.
No one gives a fuck.
It's not
about
growing.
This. Yeah,
like, what's the
it's
point?
Stagnant. And then that one thing was like, okay, keep going.